Hello, welcome to the Paper Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan James. Thank you for joining me today. This morning, as I was watching business news, had a senator that was pushing a bill that has more regulations in regards to cryptocurrency and SEC and all of that. I'm not getting into detail of whether or not I agree with her or their push or not, but what it got me thinking about is, we're always constantly seeing some type of statute change, regulatory change, and things of fact. And then as a banker, what do you do once that comes through? And maybe that changes and alters the course for customer sector that you may be banking, or maybe you've got to, add another item to your checklist that you're documented on, opening up new accounts or affecting new product services. So I want to go a little bit about, my mindset of when you're having to create a new product procedure, and what is the basis. So, right now we're looking at an additional model and flow through Surety Bank. So, the basis as, look at it is we start out with the risk assessment, and the risk assessment is extremely paramount. The risk assessment is going to cover, you need to look over the impact that a product and services will have on every aspect of your bank. A lot of aspects, it may not impact you at all. It could be an extension of a new product, and you need to say that, hey, this is just an extension. It's nothing new. But we're calling it something different. You still have to do a risk assessment. It just may not be as robust as you knew for something that is completely new, or we're not adding crypto securities, if any regulators are looking to it, listening to this. But you have to go through each section and how it prioritizes and what is most important. So as I go through each section, I also think of what is the absolute worst that could happen in each section. So what's your financial risk is the first thing that always pops in my mind. If you can't live with the worst thing that happens in financial risk, then, right then and there, you should stop. Don't even go with that product and service. Go through BSA, go through operations, go through everything. And to me, a risk assessment is never quite 100% finished, because there's always something that is unknown. You may not know, but you get it as far as you can and get that good framework and list what additional policies and procedures you may need. And then start writing those policies and procedures. Get with the departments to start writing the policies and procedures. And then as all of the policies and procedures and maybe additional contracts and agreements come into place too, as they're getting 80 to 100% finished too, you need to bring this back to your risk assessment and see if those really did put in the controls and the safety mechanisms that in the worst case scenario, we put in the controls. So even during the worst case, we limited exposure down to, this, and define that exposure. Everything should be looked at in absolute worst case scenario. What if this whole product went away overnight? What would that happen? Did we have a huge investment in software that we, now have to charge off, that we purchased and it's over, depreciated over 36 months? Well, now we got to depreciate it now because we're exiting the business. Take all of those things into consideration and go back and forth with your committees, your board minutes, and, just know that risk assessment's never probably truly finished. You need to look back at it year after year as you start that new product, new service you want to go through after you finish your risk assessment. Start with one customer. And use that to tailor in. Okay, because let's face it, you truly have no clue what you're doing until you're actually doing it. You can have the plan. You got to have the plan. You got to have risk assessment and have the best idea and expectations of what could happen. But till you're actually doing something, you 100% do not know what is going to happen. So go slow and go back to your risk assessment and see if what you thought mitigating concerns if they actually hold true. A lot of them will, but you'd be surprised. Some don't, and use it to your advantage. And then make sure when you're doing a risk assessment, bring it back into your global risk assessment, see how that fits in. Maybe it makes a dent. Maybe you need to update your overall strategic business, but take it slowly. You're never going to finish everything 100%. Get through the risk assessment as much as you can, and then go on policies, procedures, then go back to the risk assessment, look at overall, start with one, and then, fine tune before you start opening up the floodgates if it's something that is just going to take off. And, bankers, we're all about safety and soundness. Let it be known, document on the risk assessment and go through it. And you have any questions and concerns about, I want to hear about what you guys do for your risk assessments, new products and services. What have you go through? I spoke earlier this year at a convention for Financial Services Professionals of America, manufacturers that sell products and services to banks. And some of the questions they asked spurred of, how do they come across to us banks when they're selling products and services? We depend on them. And I told them, I said, why aren't you already producing your own risk assessment? If it is a, the automated cash machine that is the smart, if you're looking to put in a smart safe in your bank branch and the cash circulation and the smart cash recycler, have the vendor, they should already put together a risk assessment. Here's the cost. Here's the risk that we see. You have to tie into your cores. You've got to tie into this systems. We're compatible with the following already. So then you already know, okay, great. We're compatible. Does it fit with our current core? Yes, no, maybe so. You're going to add additional risk if it doesn't. So, that tells you when vendors are coming to you, if they already have a risk assessment put together on their product service, great. There's a first start. You look over theirs and you do your own. Thank you. Please, I would love to hear from you. I want to hear about your experiences with risk assessments. That's something that examiners, when they come in, that's a topic of mine they want to see for good reason. It's a great practice to go through new products and services and looking at worst case scenarios and can you live with them. Anyways, thanks.